Good Saturday afternoon, folks. I hope you're all excited as I am. I hope you are about today's live stream. Our live stream today is going to be all about interviews. How fun is that? I'm sure everyone loves interviews and everyone loves to answer some of the ridiculous questions that you get asked at the interviews and some of the doozies that happen every so often. So I'm excited to share some of those tips and tricks on how you can improve your interview skills. All right? So first and foremost, I want you to know this, all right? You have the interview. You deserve to be there, all right? You deserve to be sitting at that interview, okay? So I don't want you to be nervous. You've earned the right. Your resume has gotten your foot into the door. You may have already done a pre-screen. If you haven't, if this is a pre-screen, that's not a problem. You deserve to be having that conversation with the company, with that HR rep or the hiring manager or the director, whatever it may be. You deserve to be there. So please be confident in yourself. I don't mean cocky, I mean confident. Know that you belong and you deserve to be there. All right? That's first and foremost. You need to have that in your heart and soul, actually. You know, it needs to give you that little oomph in your spine. That's the first and foremost important thing, right? Is make sure you believe in yourself, right? You deserve to be there, first and foremost. Now, second piece of that is you're going to feel anxious, right? Even before the interview, you're going to feel anxious. So most people, what they do when they get anxious is that they start to enjoy some chemical stimulants. Easy, what is it? Caffeine. They're like, oh, I'm jittery, I'm excited, what should I do? I should probably grab a caffeine. I should have energy level, I should do this. And you end up doing what I'm doing right now, is over projecting, getting overly excited. And you know, that persona, yes, it can work for some positions, but you want to have that under control, right? So this would be my advice. So if you normally have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea during your regular daily routine, I would recommend do a half to a third of what you, or sorry, 3/4 of what you would normally drink. You want to still have that caffeine in your system, but you don't want to be overly rammed if it's a morning interview. If it's an afternoon interview, and in the afternoon, you may not normally have caffeine, right? What I would recommend is get a half a cup of coffee or tea just to get you bumped up in energy level. Because again, you don't want to be too jittery, too excited, too pumped full of caffeine. You also don't want to have the other end where you're sounding monotone and uninterested, right? Control your energy levels, right? Control what the chemicals and the stimulants that you're taking are doing for you, right? That's very important. And perhaps one of the most important things you can do is you control the controllables, right? You have the confidence you're doing well with that. If you're feeling anxious and anxiety, again, manage that caffeine intake, right? Second piece you'll have, sorry, the third piece now. So the third piece that we're looking at now will be that you want to make sure, right, is that if you're still feeling anxious or you have some bound up energy, take a walk, do a little jog, do a little run. Get rid of that excess energy. Like this is all prep work that you're doing, right? Very important, okay? And then connect to the prep work, and this you should be doing this way before, but if you haven't, just read up on your interviewer, read up on the company, and I would do that about an hour, about 2 hours before the interview. I just, brush up on my, questions that I may have, and what's going on with the company, their Glassdoor reviews, checking out their website, and other reviews that they may have available. And then, and once you've done that, you feel comfortable. Also, make sure you're checking up your interviewer. Whoever's going to be interviewing you, you check up on them on LinkedIn. See what their backgrounds are. See if you have some rapport building questions available for you, ready to go on the tips. Quick quick questions you may have that you want to dig in further that you find interesting or intriguing about them. Make sure that you're ready to have that on hand. And about half an hour before going to the interview, if you know how to meditate, I would recommend meditate, right? So literally half an hour before, take 10-15 minutes, meditate. Headspace, and again, I'm not affiliated with them, but I have used Headspace. They offer really cool, short meditation sessions available for you. I believe they used to be free. They may not be. I have a plan for my company. But what you can do is you can go to YouTube. YouTube actually has some really good meditations, and you can go like the 5, 10, 15-minute ones. But again, you don't want stuff that's going to make you feel groggy and sleepy. Yoga Nidra is a really interesting meditation. It like makes you feel rejuvenated but relaxed and calm and less anxious. Those can be helpful, right? Because again, you want to have the calm confidence. You don't want to have the ridiculous over-the-top energy in you, right? You want to have the calmness in you. Okay, perfect. So now that's all the prep work for mental prep work, physical, like when it comes to your body wise, how you want to prep yourself. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you normally have breakfast, or even if you don't normally have breakfast in the morning, for the interview, make sure you have a light breakfast. And for lunch, don't go really heavy. Make sure you have a light, fully nutritious, so multigrains, whole foods, whatever, veggies and all that fun stuff, and some protein. Have that, if you have an afternoon interview, because you want to make sure that you have lasting energy. Because when you're in an interview session, and again, our brains are really interesting on that side, right? And this will happen when you do very difficult sales processes, is that whenever you're in a difficult situation, your body goes into fight and flight mode. And when it does that, it starts burning up energy very quickly, right? So what you don't want to have is a lot of energy in the start, you peak right at the beginning, and then you just crash, and you're not able to project that energy, or you're not able to get that energy out there. So make sure that you're having a good light meal. So in the morning, light breakfast, at lunch, light. But again, it's full. You want to make sure you have tons of high quality, highly nutritious food. Please stay away from a lot of sugars in the start, because again, you're going to get that spike and then the crash, and you don't want that, right? Very important. So two ways now the interviews are going, right? I'll touch on both ways on how to do the interviews quickly. So first and foremost, for a lot of us, digital one is still top when it comes to interviews. Some companies are doing live interviews, in-person interviews, but still I find that digital is slowly becoming a more preferred method. And that largely has to do with the fact that people don't want to come into the office. We don't know what's going on when it comes to this pandemic, if it's going to have another spike or all that other stuff. And also, your hiring managers may not live in the same city as you do, right? So even the recruiter may not live in the same city as you do. So you may be doing online interviews. What does that mean? Okay. For online interviews, a couple of things you want to watch out for, right? Is you want to make sure that when you're dressed, at the very least, you're dressed from waist up professionally. So that means you have a nice colored shirt on or blouse on. You have a blazer, if possible. You don't need to worry about a tie, right? Some people will say, yes, you should have a tie. I have worn ties to interviews. I don't find them very comfortable. They're kind of annoying. But up to you, right? Like, look at once you've done your research on the company, and if the company, looks like it's a very buttoned up shop where, you're going to be wearing a tie every single day, where you think your interviewer is going to be wearing a tie every single day, wear a tie, right? Or for males. If they're not, you feel like they're not going to do it, you can still, you can rock it without the tie, right? And again, knowing the company, you may want to dress a little bit more conservative, a little bit more formal than you would in your day-to-day life or in your day-to-day office life. So just a little bit better, right? Because again, you want to show enthusiasm, you want to show excitement, right? Also, grooming wise, you don't want to do what I'm doing right now, where my hair is growing a little bit long and I need to get a haircut, right? When you're in the interview stages, when you're in interview mode of your career, where you're interviewing with a lot of folks, you want to do very important thing you want to do is get a haircut, or groom yourself regularly. And I would say, even if you do it every 3 weeks or 4 weeks, like I'm every 4 weeks, well, for haircuts and beard trims, what you could do is maybe do it every 2 to 3 weeks. I know it sounds like a lot of cost, a lot of expense, but what you don't want to do is have a really fresh haircut. It can look really weird and odd, especially if you don't know your barber and they tend to make a mistake. So that would be my advice, is that make sure you're prepped and ready for that. Another piece I would say is, when you're doing a digital interview, make sure you're comfortable, right? Make sure that your environment around you is comfortable. So if you're wearing a blazer, guess what? You're going to get warm. You're going to get hot. It's going to be hotter than it is when you're just wearing a t-shirt or maybe a collared shirt. Make sure the air conditioner's turned up a little bit more if you have it, or a fan that's not very loud is running in the background, so at least you're not sweating, right? Nothing looks as terrible on interviews when people are just like dripping sweat. Not fun. I have done interviews with people who have been really nervous or in comfortable situations or in comfortable environments. So make sure you're comfortable in your environment. Very important. And then connected that piece is, when you're interviewing, please do not look at the screen, because I'll show you the difference, right? I'm looking at the screen right now. I'm looking at myself on the screen because that's cool. Or you may be looking at the interviewer, because, hey, do you know what? Interviewers are looking at you and you're like, hey, look, do you know what? I should look at the interviewer. But the problem is, it looks like you're disinterested, right? It's weird as it sounds. If you want to look the interviewer in the eye, so to speak, look in the camera. Speak to the camera itself. You don't have to stare into the camera's soul, which just looks weird. But what you do is, look at it, spend most of your time looking at the camera, look down, acknowledge or smile or whatever, and that lets you get the idea of how that conversation is going. My advice would be is, please get an external webcam. So laptops tend to have cameras that tend to look up at you. So looking up at your nostrils. By the way, trim your nostrils if you're going to go with that strategy. But also, it doesn't look as flattering, right? So if you have an external webcam, you can have it pointed down a little bit, so it makes the interviewer feel like that they are in a little bit of position of control. Secondly, you get to position it the right way, so they get the right angle, so it's a little bit above your head height, and you're looking up as you're talking to them. Again, that gives you a flattering look. Very nice. Also, and this is going to be I personally believe this is essential. Please get an external mic. Do not use the mic that comes with your laptop or your webcam. Please, please, please get an external mic. The reason why I point that out is because the sound quality is going to make a heck of a difference, right? The sound quality, the ability for someone to hear you, is essential in interviews, especially in digital ones, right? So you want to have a good webcam. And again, you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. 20, 30 bucks, will get you a really nice camera, decent camera, webcam. And same thing when it comes to your microphone. And what I'll do is I will add the microphone and a couple of webcam options for you in the description below, so you can check it out. And again, these are going to be affiliate links, of course. If you choose to buy them, I get a little bit of a spiff off them. Great. But again, at the very least, I would recommend, get something you can get something inexpensive, but get something external. It's going to help you out, right? So that is for digital interviews, right? So what about in-person interviews? Well, similar thing, except the webcam and the microphone. Please don't bring that on personal interviews. That's just weird. What you can do for personal interviews, again, you want to get there early. So I am anal retentive when it comes to being a little bit early and sometimes really early for interviews. And what I'll do is I will sit down at a local coffee shop and grab, get like half an hour early, grab myself, mint tea or something, non-caffeinated tea if I already have my caffeine intake in place, or a low caffeinated product of some sort. And I'll sip on it. I will also try to, leverage, because, I'm in Toronto, it gets kind of cold, especially in the wintertime. So what I will do for my, is I'll try to keep my hands warm. And that's a very important piece. And it seems like a psychological thing, maybe an odd psychological thing, but it really does work, right? Is that when you shake your interviewer's hand, you want to make sure your hands feel warm. Not clammy, not hot like you're running a fever, but warm. And that actually has a psychological effect where the other person feels more comfortable with you. Weird. I'll try to see if I can find that study, and I'll drop it in the description when I find it. But that's really important, right? It's you want to, because the first introductions, you want to make sure that you're making your interviewer feel comfortable being around you, right? That's important. That's the first impression you're going to give, right? Again, now that when it comes to how you look, now the personal grooming becomes even more important. Your fingernails, your hair, if you have a beard, your glasses if you're wearing them, right? The amount of jewelry you're wearing, the professional clothing you're wearing, all becomes very important, right? My goal is, my advice to you would be is figure out what the corporate culture is, and you can get an idea of that by going on LinkedIn, checking that out, going to the website, figuring that out, looking at Glassdoor and looking at reviews and finding out, what's going on there. You can get an idea of their corporate culture. If they're very buttoned up and if they're very old school, I'd say 80s corporate culture or 90s corporate culture, then I would go with the same attitude. I would have generally, I normally don't go very flamboyant when it comes to suits. If I'm, especially for interviews, unless I already have gauged them that they're going to be good with it, they're gonna appreciate that look. So what I normally will do is I will go with either a really dark or navy suit, or I normally stick with navy, or maybe a khaki brown suit or a dark brown suit. I wouldn't go black. Black looks way too formal, and it almost seems like you may be going to a funeral, which is not a good look. Like a navy suit with a muted shirt, and I'd say a solid tie, maybe a striped tie, but I wouldn't go crazy with the tie color either. And again, this is for men. For women, I'd say a professional blouse with a blazer, I think is a very great look, is a phenomenal look. And business trousers, or like a pantsuit kind of idea. In terms of jewelry, hey, you do what makes sense to you. I will not tell people to not share their personality, because hey, you're going to be working with these folks for a long time, hopefully. You don't want to hide who you are, but again, you don't have to show everything. So when it comes to who you are, so if you want to maybe cut down on some jewelry, feel free. I would recommend, if you're wearing 5, 6, 7 pieces of jewelry, you may want to cut it down to like 2 or 3 unique, interesting pieces that you can talk about, that you have a story related to. That kind of works out really well for that. Also, so now we have gotten the clothing down, hair, all that fun stuff down. By the way, personal grooming, very important. Please make sure your nails are properly clipped and you're looking good, you're looking clean, smelling good. Again, this is gonna be a very important piece to remember when it comes to smell. In North America, a lot of businesses and organizations do not allow perfume usage or usage of perfume or you having perfume in their building because of allergies and all those things, right? So what does that mean? Please, if you're going to use cologne or perfume or any of those scented products, please keep them as muted as possible. If you can avoid them, please do that. What I mean by smelling good is, one thing, please make sure your clothes and suits are clean. Get them dry cleaned if possible, a couple of days beforehand. If you smoke, I need you to pick up a Nicorette or any of those nicotine patch or whatnot else for that time period. Do not reek of cigarettes. That would be the biggest recommendation I can make for when it comes to smells. Like, BO, cigarettes, all those things. Don't smell like that. It's going to cause you issues. It's going to cause problems. At worst, you can just completely get, canceled out because, hey, look, they realize that, you're a smoker, they're not smoking, or a lot of, there are folks at the organization don't smoke, and you're a smoker, that automatically has, appropriately or disappropriately has, preconceived notion, prejudice around that, right? So yeah, use Nicorette, use the patch, whatever you need to do to avoid smoking when you have your suit on and you're ready to go to the interview, right? So we're taking care of the smell piece on that, right? And when you're meeting with them, make sure you have something to write with. I recommend a portfolio, leather bound or vegan leather, pleather portfolio where you have some paper or something else, a couple of copies of your resume. I know it's weird. You're going to need paper copies of your resume and have that on hand. It's kind of important and nice to have. And I would actually have some questions written down already. So, and again, you don't have to show them. By the way, have 2 pens, not 1, 2 pens, and you've tested both of them to make sure that they both work. So have the portfolio. I will also link the portfolio or options of portfolio below that I think are reasonably priced and I think they'll work well for you. And again, that's an affiliate link, of course. But again, have a nice portfolio, leather portfolio with paper in it that you can write questions and write comments in. And so when you sit down and have a conversation, you're ready to go, right? So when you're ready to go, you meet them, you will get introduced, firm handshake, look them straight in the eye, smile. So again, smiling means please brush your teeth before you go into interview, please. No halitosis. Also, and oftentimes what I've done is I realize that I am going to be speaking a lot and discussing a lot. So I will grab a couple of lozenges. My favorite ones happen to be Fisherman Friends. Again, not sponsored by them. I just love their product. And I'll just have them tucked on in my cheek and not sucking on them actively, just tucked on my cheek. And it's slowly giving me menthol and properly helping me lubricate my mouth and, helping me salivate a little bit more. So, and also it gives you a little bit of, it prevents you from having terrible breath. That's also helpful. Or you just do it beforehand and then you're okay and you don't have to keep sucking on a lozenge if you can't do it discreetly. You have it ready to go. All right. So, so this is the setup of sitting on in the interview. So when you shake the hand, sit down, smile, introduce yourself, say hey, my name is Omer, pleasure to meet you. And then they'll share their name and say, oh, pleasure to meet you, James, or pleasure to meet you, Samantha, right? So whatever, maybe repeat their name back to them and smile while you do it. Again, there are folks that'll tell you that, the sweetest thing people will ever hear is their name, or people love hearing the name. I don't know if I truly believe that to be the case. But the reason why I recommend saying their name back to them, it helps you remember their name, right? It shows that you're paying attention and that you're interested. That's the more important piece of that. And then all I'd even do is write down their name. When you sit down, write down their name. They may ask you, hey, would you like something to drink? Always, always, always always accept. Get yourself a glass of water or a bottle of water, whatever they're offering, accept a bottle of water. I would avoid coffee. I would avoid any of the other beverages. Go with a glass of water, and however you like it, you can go with that. The reason why I say is that you taking that sip of water gives you an opportunity. So when you're doing an interview, getting that glass of water, taking a sip, gives you a chance to collect your thoughts. And it does not look like you're trying to avoid a question. So give you an example with this bottle, right? So let's say I just had a question. People saying, what's your biggest weakness? I'm like, that's a great question, right? It gave me a few seconds to think about my answer. It gave me a chance to, hydrate myself because, I may be getting into a story that I want to share about how I have a big weakness. So that's very important, right? Is make sure that you're set up for success, right? Accept that bottle of water, right? And when you are walking into the office or the meeting room, wherever you are, make sure that you're paying attention. So right now you're going to be nervous, right? It's going to happen. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel nervous. In your tummy, you're going to be like grumbling and, all that fun stuff that happens. Yeah, by the way, make sure you take care of any bio breaks or anything beforehand so you're not worried about it. You're not feeling like anxious, like I need to go pee during the interview. So make sure you take care of that beforehand, right? So now you're going to feel anxious. But what I want you to do is, instead of feeling anxious, I want you, and letting that just fester inside you, what I want you to do is start paying attention. Have your head on a swivel, look around on what's going on, who these people are, what does the atmosphere feel like in the office, what is, do they have awards or something standing up? Point and ask questions about them. If you think something is interesting, ask about it. Hey, by the way, they have this room with a lime wall, which is different from all the others. Like, oh, what happens in that room? Ask questions, be curious, right? A couple of things it's going to do. It's going to give you opportunities, like rapport building opportunities. It also shows that you are curious about what's going on and what's interesting about their organization and what they're doing. But more importantly, what it does is it helps you not feel anxious anymore. You're not internalizing that anxiousness and feeling like, oh my God, I'm gonna burst. This is crazy. This is insane. No, you're asking questions, right? They're gonna throw the ball at you, throw questions at you. This is your chance to throw a ball at them. And these are like softballs. These are easy ones that they can give you a home run, right? So have head on a swivel, right? This is all great opportunity for you to learn what to talk about, right? To figure out what are interesting topics, right? So when you actually get into the room and, they're like, oh, please sit down. Oh, thank you. Sit down, get yourself ready, open your portfolio up, have your resumes. If they're tucked in a pocket or something, take that out, and say, hey, let's get started. And like, hey, by the way, would you like a physical copy of my resume? They're like, oh, no, I already have one. Or yes, please, that'd be great. Pass it to them. And then you actually have hopefully you have a job description already printed. Very useful, or at least the major points of the job description highlighted with things that you want to talk about or things that how they pertain to your success factor or, why you'd be successful in that role. And then you're going to probably not going to have, you're probably not going to just dive right into interview. They're probably going to say, hey, how was the drive in? Or how did you get in? How did you like it? Did you have any issues or problems? You're going to have these softball questions that are designed to make you feel at ease. Take advantage of them, right? Take advantage of them. Breathe, right? Relax. And one of the actual breathing techniques beforehand, if you want to do it, that actually is scientifically proven to help calm you down, it's this. So 2 short breaths in, 1 deep breath out. If you do that 3-4 times, it calms you down. You want to do that before the interview. Do not do that during the interview. That just looks really, really odd. I would not recommend that. But when you're sitting there, just in your head, just calm down, all right? Your goal is to go, I deserve to be here. They're not just interviewing me, I'm interviewing them. They have to be worthy of me. You should be saying that in your head. Please don't get cocky about it. But that's what should be thinking in your head when you're sitting down and having that interview, is that, hey, this company has to tell me why they deserve to work with me. Why they deserve to have me as an employee, as a star employee, because I'm assuming you're going to be a star employee, and of course you're going to be a star employee, right? So you need to have that mentality in your head, that there's a chance for you to interview them, right? To see if they're right for you. So that's going to be a really important piece of that, right? And when you sit down and then when you're having that discussion one-on-one, these rapport building questions, there are going to be a ton of them, right? This is when you start prepping. It's like, hey, by the way, I see that you previously worked for company X before you moved here. Why did you move to this organization? And you've been with this company for X amount of months, years. How is the experience? How do you like it so far, right? What motivated you to switch over? If they switch industries, how is that industry different from what you were doing previously? What were the takeaways that you had? Let's say if you had some connection, like let's say you previously worked in a similar industry, say, hey, did you also find this to be the case? By the way, this is what I call bridge building, right? This is where you're showing, hey, look, I'm interested in this organization. I'm interested in this opportunity. I'm interested in learning more about you and your experience. Let's talk, right? You're showing your interest. You are now asking open-ended questions about their experience with the organization, with the company, right? And the great thing is, though, is that now you've actually started the interview process, but you are the one who instigated the questions, right? That seems a little odd, but again, it shows enthusiasm. It shows initiative, right? That can be very important. And folks, I realize that this has gone way longer than I thought on just getting prepped and ready for the interview. And what I'll do is next week on Saturday, I will actually get into details about how to answer interview questions and how they will actually function. And these tips and tricks that I'm sharing with you can be used by anyone. It doesn't have to be sales. It's literally interview prep and how you get ready for the interview. And next week I'll be going into question piece and how do you answer questions and what kind of questions will you be expected to answer. All right, folks, have a fantastic rest of your weekend. I wish you best of luck in any interviews or sales opportunities that you're working on or anything else you're doing in your life. Be awesome. Have fun. This is Omer, the Salesmedic, saving one sale at a time. Take care. Bye.